an inside look at the restaurant industry and entrepreneurial insight to help you succeed. It's the Paper Trails Podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
What's going on, guys? How are ya? Episode 21 for the Paper Trails Podcast. We're super pumped to have you guys on. If this is your first time plugging in, if you guys are listening to this, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or if you guys are watching this on our YouTube channel or other social media outlets, welcome. Super pumped to have you. This is a podcast all about business ownership, entrepreneurship, and the food industry. And I'm super pumped to have our guest, Chef Michael Pappas. We know each other through some mutual friends that have gotten to know each other for maybe the last couple months. We've kind of interacted back and forth. And so we are super pumped to just introduce him to you guys. He has a lot of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and I'm thrilled to have him on just to talk about the industry, food, business ownership, the whole thing. And so, Chef Mike, thanks for hanging out with us.
My pleasure. Great to be with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Why don't we do this? Why don't we start from the beginning? Let's start, where are you from? You from Charlotte? I don't think so. Let's start there. Where are you from? Your background? How did you end up becoming a chef?
Sure. Originally from New York, about 25 minutes outside of Manhattan.
Okay.
And
born and raised?
Born and raised.
Okay.
I had no intentions of becoming a chef or being in this amazing food service world. But sometimes the waters of life will take you there. And typical story.
Okay.
I started out as a dishwasher.
Okay.
I think the people working the line said, you wash dishes like a Marine, we need to get you on the line cooking some food.
Okay.
And that was actually in upstate New York when I had just started my undergrad at a school called SUNY New Paltz.
Okay.
And it was a 25-year Italian restaurant that was opened. It was really a historic mainstay for that area, and just started working the line.
Now, is your family from in restaurants or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
So this was just a part-time job while in
money.
School.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just making a little side cash.
Okay.
And just got positive feedback from the wait staff, and then I got bit by the bug, and just kept cooking and learning and cooking and learning. Did private restaurants, hotels, resorts, country clubs in the New York metropolitan area, and working my way to upstate New York. Then landed myself in the CIA in 2003.
Okay.
And then after that, hopped into the industry and opened up my first restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
That was when I was 26 years old, moved from New York to
Charleston?
Charleston.
How did that happen? Did you always want to go there? Did you just hear good things? I mean, how did that even, being born and raised in New York, that was a big jump. I would have to.
It was a big jump.
So how did that even happen? And maybe tell us, because there's a lot of people maybe that don't know the history of Charleston, the scene. Tell us about that.
Well, Charleston has a very, very interesting culinary scene.
Okay.
This is going back to probably 2006, maybe. It wasn't as crowded as it is right now, because it's the type of place, you visit, you fall in love with it. It has a nostalgia, it has a laid back feel to it. The influx of people going to Charleston from other places is amazing.
Okay.
Which is another thing that has helped the restaurant scene there quite a bit.
Okay.
So went there, kind of fell in love with it. Your money goes a lot farther south than it does in New York, especially when you're looking to open a restaurant.
This is true.
So those were some of the motivating factors.
Okay.
So when I opened up, could fill the place up with my food and my cooking. I mean, there were times when it was standing room only. I mean, there were times when there was lines out the door. The energy for the food was amazing.
What kind of style food did you have?
It was primarily American food, but it was mostly based on European influences. So I brought in things from France. I brought in things from Italy, and we were just cooking. I mean, really, really cooking. Really, really taking the long road. Focused on flavor, focused on variety, focused on local, and the people were responding quite well.
Nice.
But at 26, I didn't have enough life experience to be a chef and to run a business all by myself, moving from a place like New York to a place like Charleston. So ultimately, I failed as a businessman. However, when I closed that business, I was pressed with some very interesting questions, namely, how are there people and restaurant groups that can go to virtually any city in America and make it happen? And that was my introduction to understanding the back office and the administrative side of the industry.
Interesting.
And that was 10 years ago, and I have relentlessly chased down, what that back office is, what those balance sheets, those P&Ls, those financial statements, and how do they work into the employee culture, to make a system of excellent financial homeostasis with great artisan products at the same time.
Now, is that something? First off, that was amazing. Is that something that, like, once you closed down, you started reflecting, and then it just never left your mind? You wanted to. I mean, how does that become such a passion to learn? For 10 years now, you've been studying and like looking, because I always tell people, there's no lack of answers. There's just lack of desire to find answers. Period. I mean, especially today. I mean, with all the resources, Google, you can figure out how to do anything. And so, is that something that you were just like, okay, like I was young, I ran this, I know this part of the business, I'm crushing it here, maybe I'm not so well here, like how can I get, how did that even, like, was that something that you've just reflecting on?
Youth plays a large role in that for sure. As we were speaking earlier, I had mentioned sales versus brands. Something that was head spinning for me is, how can I fill this place up with customers? Yet I'm not making it at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year. I'm still very imbalanced.
Yeah.
So it was a curiosity, that was birthed from my experiences, and I was very, very well certain that the answer existed, and it was not out of my reach. I just simply was not even thinking in those realms whatsoever.
Let's take a couple of steps back.
Sure.
What did you learn opening the first restaurant? Because I would have to imagine, and even I think polls even just say people would love to own their own business. I mean, it's just the autonomy, the independence, a lot of that people would love to do. How does one even start? Let's say somebody's young, they love to start a food truck, a catering company, a restaurant, anything, right? What did you learn opening your first restaurant, preparing blueprints, architects, getting inspections? I'm sure this is what had to been new to you, all of that. What did you learn? What are some thoughts, suggestions we can give to people from your experience?
Well, for me personally, my motivations for opening a restaurant were my strength and my weakness kind of coupled in one. My focus has been flavor, since the beginning. What attracted me to cooking was exceptional experiences. So for me, opening a business was about, I want people to experience this, and I want to share these actions that I have. I want to share, sitting down with someone who's in their 40s and they say, I don't like seafood, and I really haven't really enjoyed it too much in my life, but you gave me this and I love this.
Nice.
Any type of seafood you make, I'll eat it.
That's cool.
Or even simpler things. Some things have an aversion toward mushrooms or onions, but when things get very, very skillfully prepared and worked into a dish properly, it was those experiences that I wanted to broaden in my life. However, food service is much more complex than the food. As anyone who's listening to this probably very well knows, some very, very great chefs of very great note have said things like, environment is number one, service is number two, and then the food is number three. And I think I heard that from Marco Pierre White. So, we obviously can't question his dedication toward the culinary world as far as food and flavor.
Gotcha.
But maturity will show us that the food business is in some ways a manufacturing facility, and we have to keep our books in order. We have to keep our staffs in a proper position. We have to be concerned about how we build our bridges between owners and our customers. We have to turn our customers into clients through nurturing them in ways outside of the food as well.
It's good.
So it's a 360 view that I did not have then. When I was opening, it was just, get to the food, get the equipment in, get cooking and fill it up. Well, yes, I did that, but there's a lot more to the picture, as you very well know.
And I'm sure you've learned a ton through that, all those years that you ran the business, right? I mean,
Certainly.
you have to. I mean, you know, I don't know, I'm not sure where I read this, chef, but it's the opposite of success is not failure, it's quitting. You have to fail to succeed. I mean, the number of mistakes that my cousin and I made, even running our paper company, is immeasurable. I mean, it's just the dumb stuff that we did is just, now looking back, I'm like, wow, that was, you know, that was interesting, but that's awesome. I love that. I love. Go ahead.
It's a very fine line now, you know, with failure, with, you know, the use of social media. You know, we have to be really, really careful.
Sure.
You know, really, really careful. I mean, philosophically, you know, from a business standpoint, you know, everything, you know, in my shop that gets touched, you know, everything needs to be near perfect. Every single time we need to hit brand standard. Every single time. Relentlessly, without cutting corners, ever. You know, we buy excellent products. You know, we don't compromise. So,
I love that. I mean, I had a couple of brokers on that are some friends of my family, and they do a lot of business with some larger chains. You know, multi-unit, 10, 50, 100 unit restaurants, and something that one of them said, Jeff said, you know, it's all about, you have to do everything you can to just put forth the most consistent product every time. Like, and he was like that. And there's a lot of things in your control. There's some things that are not in your control, but just consistency. And like you just said that, you know, the same product out, you know, every single time, which I find, you know, interesting, which is awesome. So, okay. So what years is this, by the way, when you moved to Charleston?
This was 2006.
Okay, so you were there in the middle of 2008, 7, 8, right?
Yes.
So how did that affect your business, just on a side note?
Well, I certainly didn't have roots deep enough to, you know, withstand a financial crisis, you know, by any means.
Did it hit Charleston pretty hard?
Certainly.
Gotcha.
Certainly.
Okay. So what's next? So you're in Charleston, you opened up this restaurant. You know, you got so much experience. You learned. You know, what's the next moves for Mike?
Well, about 2 years into opening the restaurant, I wanted to. You know, we were very hands-on, very artisan. Like I said, we were taking the long road with everything. So I wanted to make some bread as a way to connect with my customers.
Okay.
And I was pretty mature as a chef at this point, and I tried to make a loaf of bread, and it looked like it needed a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. You know, I hadn't been challenged by a cooking preparation like that in quite some time.
Yeah.
And I baked another loaf, and it was the same thing. And I baked more, it was the same thing. And I baked more, it was the same thing. And I was like, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of books, and one of them was called Bread by Jeffrey Hamelman. He's the director of King Arthur Flour. He's a master baker.
Okay.
The other one was a book by James Beard Award winner Peter Reinhardt. And I just baked everything in the book.
Okay.
And I just took them cover to cover, and then I started to get the hang of it.
Okay.
And I noticed when I was doing the bread baking that it was a historical journey. I mean, you're going back into, you know, why do different regions or country use different flours or grains, and, you know, why were the fermentation processes different, etc. And I had the restaurant for 5 years, and then after it closed, I went to the Vendu Inn, which is, you know, very high-end property in Charleston, and I was running their kitchen there on the day side, and I brought my baking there as well and worked it into my culinary game.
Okay.
And it just took off. You know, the people responded awesome.
Okay.
And then I just expanded the baking a little more. My wife and I were actually going door to door in downtown Charleston, and we were selling the breads. And my wife grew up in Europe.
Okay.
And she grew up in the Netherlands, and, you know, bread, the baking business is such a huge part of that culture there.
Okay.
So, you know, it was great for her and her family. They were really loving it. And I asked her, hey, you know, would you be okay with me kind of segueing, you know, out of the kind of the traditional savory culinary world and getting into this bread thing? And she was crazy enough to say yes.
Your wife, you asked your wife this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, you know, again, I was, you know, pretty developed as a chef. You know, to really, really switch directions like this after being in the industry for probably 12 years was pretty significant.
Okay.
And I met the COO of Earth Fair in Charlotte.
Okay.
And they were looking to kind of resurrect the artisan bread movement in about 10 of their maybe 20 some odd locations.
Okay.
So they took me on to be a voice to help kind of spearhead that operation for them.
And that was here in Charlotte?
That was here in Charlotte, and that's what actually took me to Charlotte from Charleston.
Now, how did you even meet the COO?
I think we just connected probably online. You know, it wasn't an extremely intentional push.
Gotcha.
But essentially, when I closed my restaurant, I said, you know what, let me just go work somewhere for just 1 calendar year.
Sure.
Just to get on my feet,
Sure.
get my head together. It was
Sure.
a pretty significant gear change for us.
Sure.
So once I hit that year mark and I knew I wanted to delve into the baking world, that's when I started reaching out for connections, talked to that person, and it took off. I mean, we were at the location in, my home location was the one in South Park, and there was Europeans coming out of the woodwork. I mean, people didn't even speak English. They were knocking on the bakery door, you know, because we had these beautiful products.
Sure.
And, you know, this is a very European focused product. You know, if you grew up somewhere in Europe, you know, you're very familiar with these products as a part of your daily life.
Okay.
But these particular style of products, you know, can only be found in maybe just a couple of major cities in America.
No kidding.
So I'm excited to be here in Waxhaw doing this because the energy that we're getting from the people is amazing. I mean, we do home delivery a couple of days a week in response to COVID.
Okay.
And by the time my wife and I get back home, I mean, our phones are already like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe this. Thank you so much. And these people are going from trying the product to, you know, customers for life, like as soon as they try it.
Nice. Well, here's something cool that I was thinking of, and the reason I even asked about how you know the COO, because, you know, I talk a lot about just networking, just meeting people and networking and being intentional with your relationships, because, you know, we know the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Certainly. I mean, like, and so, like, I guess that's why I was kind of asking about that, because, you know, I just suggest to my audience, make friends, meet people, pass out your card, you know what I mean? Because you never know where those relationships, I mean, you may meet your next best friend, or you may do business with somebody. I mean, you never know how this, or nothing may happen. So anyway, let's back up a second. You said something about, you know, the restaurant that you were working at, and you were doing some, you know, you were pushing your bakery stuff, and you were going, now you're going door to door to promote and push your bakery business, right?
Yes.
Now, talk about that, like going door to door, like pushing it, like creating a brand, creating a name. I mean, my opinion, I don't think there's a better way to learn grit or perseverance than going door to. I mean, that takes so much hunger, desire, humility, everything. And so, was that just something you wanted to get feedback on a product? Was that something that you actually wanted to, like, build a business and stay in Charleston and do that full time? Like, what was your mindset like? How did that even go about? Were you like, you know what, let's go do this, and this?
Well, you've alluded to this, you know, style of understanding a couple of times, and I appreciate that very much because it has been a big part of my journey. And I'm not certain that I can fully put my finger on it, but I do know that inside of me is a great need to share. And I really want to share these products with people because, again, when I was learning about these products, I mean, it was a historic journey. These products, my goal as a baker, as a chef, you know, is to touch the heart of the customer,
yeah, and
not just make money. I mean, sure, we're here to make money.
Sure. I got you.
But even if this product is not your cup of tea, I still want the person to stop and have that moment of pause and recognize that excellence and recognize what went into the product.
That's good.
And that was the motivation for going door to door.
Gotcha.
It was just touching more people, you know, enriching more homes, enriching more families. One of the greatest compliments I've gotten with the home delivery is the amount of children and teens who like this product, because usually a stuffy product and, you know, the parents are into it, or it's European this or that. You know, but these kids are loving this stuff, and it's helping me certainly when the kids are nagging their parents, hey, get that bread in, get that bread in. But it's a real product. It makes your home better. It makes your meals better. It's enriching your life, which is finding a very interesting home, especially in this COVID time.
Yeah.
So sharing, huge motivation.
I love that. I was just curious, like, you've, like, when I hear certain words, it just, like you said door to door, and I'm like, you know what, man, I bet you learned a lot doing that. Like I said, getting your product out there, sharing the experience, sharing the whole thing. And so you move here, you're with Earth Fare, you were there for a while, a few years?
Yeah, I was there for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then...
was that, now you were there doing was that your products? Was that their products? I mean, what, because I know you said they wanted to kind of
sure
reintroduce their bakery items to their clients. Is that right?
Yes. Baking it's interesting. Baking is buzzing right now.
Okay.
With the quarantine time, there was a lot of people who started baking at home, and there's my flour supplier is a company called KDL, and they said they're having one of the best years that they've had supplying flour, because that Lindley Mill is up in Graham, which is where most of our flour is coming from.
Sure.
People are just home baking, the sales up. But to really do this craft very well, there's a good bit that you have to understand about flour, about fermentation, about metabolism. And I actually took it even a bit farther to a particle fusion and electronic level of what's going on inside of these products. And Earth Fare had hired a few people to try to help really launch it and push it forward. And it just wasn't happening for them.
Gotcha.
And they were just so frustrated. They just said, we think you have the ability to do this, just go. And I was like, what do you mean? They was like, just go. I said, okay. So I created a product line of 14 different breads.
Okay.
And I mean, we were selling maybe 8 or 10 loaves a week when I first got there, and it was maybe 60 days later, I think we were selling nearly 1,000 a week.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was quick. Really great products like this, they have the ability, you taste them. It's just, there's just such a congenial and innate experience that's happening when you eat these types of products.
Nice. Well, did you learn anything in those couple of years you were with Earth Fare? I mean, was there anything that stands out to you? Maybe business side, back office, corporate, anything? I mean, because you went from restaurants to now grocery chain.
Yes.
Anything different? Anything you learned from that?
I really appreciate you saying that. It was a very significant gear change. Learning about retailing, and learning about piecework, and learning about how to merchandise and how to display. I was over more than one department simultaneously when I was there. So learning communications on a local level leading to a corporate level, understanding, the need to balance, the pressures coming down from the top, in reference to sales, in reference to boots on the ground and interacting with the customer and what it is that they're looking for. So from a leadership standpoint, I was starting to learn a lot more about balance, on a local and then regional level, and keeping all that together for sure. That's good.
Because I would have to just in my mind kind of turning as you're talking. I'm like, you had to have made some mental clicks or shifts. I mean, going from restaurant your own to somebody else's, to pushing to learning the whole industry. I mean, even buying books. I mean, I think that's something cool. I don't know. People have thoughts of, hey, let me become a programmer. Let me learn about social media marketing. Let me go buy some books and read, study. Like there's answers out there, but they're not going to be fed to you. You've got to go. It goes back to the desire thing. I really want to help people succeed and learn from my experiences building, my business and from others. And like I said, I just know that there's answers. You just have to go find it. Like, no one's going to spoon feed you how to win in your industry or hone your craft or anything like that. So any thoughts on that?
That's very well said. Actually, I had forgotten when I mentioned it earlier, but the reason why I mentioned those people who wrote those books was because one of the authors I mentioned, Peter, He is Charlotte-based.
Okay.
And when I came to Charlotte, baking at Earth Fair, I reached out to him to show the research that I had found through my practical on-the-bench experience. And he wound up giving me a section in one of his books, which was the last one that he published. But I found it very interesting that my bread started out, pretty rough. And then after 7 years of practice at that point, one of the authors of the books that I bought to help me was at my house with a pen and a pad, taking notes on my new techniques, and had even taken my breads, wrapped them up, overnighted them to California, and they're on the cover of a book called The Bread Revolution, which is published by 10 Speed Press.
No kidding.
So it was interesting, kind of turning the curve to a long journey then.
I love that. That is like the coolest thing, just talking about your first couple of loaves that you tried to bake, and then now you're, in the book of the guy that you were studying. I love that. I love that. So let's fast forward. Like, what's going on right now? What's Chef Mike up to? Obviously, we know you're in the bakery game. Let's do a little plug. What are you doing? What are you offering? What's this new venture that you have going on?
Sure. So it's called The Baker, and we're out here in Waxhaw, and we've created this very, very nice shop thanks to two very special people that I know.
Okay.
Their name is Jonathan and Marilette Fleming.
Okay.
They are very successful small business owners out here in Waxhaw.
Nice.
And they helped me with this space.
Nice.
And together with my father-in-law, his name is Troy Pruitt. He's a construction manager for Habitat for Humanity.
Nice.
We built out this space, construction, all the way through to FF&E, all the way through to Department of Agriculture, checking us off. And what we're doing is we're bringing these products to people's homes.
Okay.
This is our honey wheat right here.
Okay.
This undergoes a very long, several-day fermentation process. And we're trying to be on trend with the look, so that's why we put some of this extra effort into the exterior look. But we're going really out of the way as far as the products that we want to give to people. For example, as I mentioned, this is a honey wheat. I don't just get the cheapest honey that I can find. We're using a local honey from Ritter Apiary. It's a very old beehive. It's very high quality. It's probably the most expensive honey that I can buy. But what happens on a fermentation and a metabolic level inside of this loaf when I put that in there, I can't match it anywhere else. So I want to make sure that we're giving people the best product because, as you know, we're in this for a marathon run rather than a sprint. And if we supply these inferior products, I may be able to make some returns quickly, but not substantially enough, to really get my roots down in this area.
And there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said right there. I think a lot of times people get in the game, whatever game it is, for the sprint, for the short term, for the the immediate income, whatever you want to call it, and the reality is tried and true successful entrepreneurs always play the long game. Always, you know what I mean? Their systems will prevail, you know what I mean? And so I love that. I don't even know bread like that, like you're talking about metabolic level, but it just sounds amazing. So what are so we have, you said honey wheat?
We have honey wheat.
Okay.
Another product that we offer here this is called our Bavarian beer and roasted shaved walnut loaf. This is a really, really nice loaf.
Okay.
Okay, so it has beer inside of it, Bavarian beer.
Okay.
That's from the company Polliner, which is a very, very old brewery. You're talking about generations of people who have worked on and practiced fermentation. And I'm just kind of capitalizing on what it is that they're doing. I'm getting that product into here, and I'm combining that with things like exceptional organic blackstrap molasses from Vermont. This has a touch of brown sugar in it, but I make sure that I use high quality organic because when I put anything else in the product, the particles of wheat do not present themselves in the same way. And that's something you can tell by looking at these products and similar ones is while potentially the untrained eye might say, well, it's dark and it's brown. But if you look at the dark and you look at the brown, there's actually a color spectrum of dark and browns and goldens inside. So you can see that the wheat is presenting not just basically its sugar, it's presenting various different types of sugars, some of them also connected to starches and proteins, but we're probably getting way off the course here, so forgive me.
Wow, no, it's, I mean, this is great, So
we're doing home delivery a couple days a week.
Okay.
And
now is that in the Charlotte area? What area are we covering?
We're covering Waxhaw and then just a few communities around Waxhaw.
Okay.
I believe we're covering Matthews, some parts of Indian Trail, some parts of Monroe.
Gotcha.
So, but you know, we're focusing on that Waxhaw, just the immediately surrounding circle there. And then we're also starting at the Waxhaw Farmers Market this weekend.
Nice.
Very great people out there organizing that market. I mean, very, very high energy, you know, very accommodating, you know, great crowd out there in Waxhaw. We're really excited to get out there and present this product. We have a display built that's just going to be, you know, straight out of a magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. So I have also some croissants here.
Nice.
And again, you know, long road. You know, these are literally, the dough's literally mixed by hand. You know, it's rolled out by hand. You know, it's crunchy. It's shiny. It's buttery.
It looks amazing.
Yes. You know, it's, you know, so again, product quality is very, very important to us.
That's awesome.
It's very, very important to us. We do a rosemary and organic orange peel loaf. That one is doing quite well. We do a roasted potato and onion. And the people,
bread?
Yes, and the people are just, I mean, when we sell this bread, I mean, we're coming back. I mean, the phone is just exploding. The people are like, this is amazing. I think someone had recently said, my husband said that he'll go to jail just to eat the bread and drink the water if they serve this bread there. You know, so they love it. They love it. And that's what it's all about.
Nice.
You know, yes, we are a business. Yes, we are here to make money.
Sure.
But this business cannot be without the customer.
100%.
So my goal from inception was, how do we take care of the customer?
Nice.
And how do we take care of them the best that we can? So that's who the baker is. I studied some companies that are very great for a very long time. Companies like Peter Luger's, for example. And the focus is not...
Have you been?
I haven't been.
I want to go too. I've heard the amazing things, but
I think that was just an indirect invitation and you're paying.
Yes, I will. If we need to make that trip happen for sure.
But the focus is the product. You know, Peter Luger's, the focus is the product. I don't know those people there. I have no affiliation with them.
Yeah.
I don't want to overspeak by any means.
Yeah.
But the focus is the product. You know, all their marketing, all their advertising, everything goes into the product. And I found that commonality in a lot of food service businesses at that caliber, because sometimes we have the tendency to focus on the chef, and I mean, heck, I'm the chef.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel it more sound for the customer's benefit, for the client's benefit, to focus on the product.
It's a good point. I like that. So, so cool. Any last parting thoughts as we kind of wrap up? I mean, what, you know, maybe talking to a business owner, entrepreneur, somebody young that may be trying to get into the culinary scene. I mean, what are some thoughts, suggestions, tips? You know, so if somebody's 16, 18, 20, 22 that has an interest in food or has an interest in maybe starting a business, what are your thoughts to them, your suggestions? You know, it definitely sounds like, you know, just your style is all about, you know, research and do the homework and learn, and you know, I mean, everything that you've done has taken time, you know, which may not be what somebody wants to hear, but 7 years after baking, you then were asked to you know, speak on a product, you know, years after, you know, working in different country clubs and restaurants up north, up in New York, you then were able to start your own business. And so maybe speak on that. What are your thoughts on that? Just some advice and tips to anybody out there that would love to get into the food industry.
Sure. I think that if you want to get involved in the food industry, either as a cook or a chef or on the ownership level, you've obviously identified some positive strengths within you. I would encourage those people to take the narrow road of also understanding your weaknesses and looking at them and submitting to them and then overcoming them, because then you can have a fully well-rounded game and you can be very, very solidified in this industry, something that I was not when I opened up my first venture and something that I hope to be with this particular venture.
That's awesome. I mean, there's something that I heard a long time ago, Chef, and it was there's nothing that sustained thought cannot overcome. And if you put thought and effort and energy into something, you will get better. I mean, and this is proof of it. Just a short handful of years ago, you know, I mean, you were testing and trying to bake, and like, I mean, I don't know much about baking. I don't know anything about baking, to be quite honest with you, but the level of intensity and intentionality that you have in your products here is astounding. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know you could do a potato onion bread, or was that right? Potato onion. I mean, that's just, and just to get the feedback is amazing. It means that you're doing something right. And so, anyway, this was awesome. I appreciate it. I think this was tremendous. And I think, you know, and listen, if you're in the area, where can people, do you have a website, you know, how can people reach out? Is the baker, right?
Sure. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, you know, real easy to find. Just punch in the baker. We can get you set up on the text list. You know, we text our customers twice a week, tell you what we're offering, when it's going to be dropped off to you. And it's a very pain-free process.
Sure.
You drive it to the house, drop it off, quick hello, take it easy.
Perfect.
Or come down to the Waxhaw Farmers Market on Saturdays. Come check out the nice display, say hello, and hopefully enjoy some of our products.
I love it. So make sure you guys reach out. Make sure you find these guys on their social media platforms. Text, come try out the products, spread the word. You know, I'm all about supporting local businesses. I think it's essential. I mean, small business is the backbone of America, and you know, I think that's awesome. So Chef Mike, thanks for hopping on the Paper Trails podcast and chatting with us, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have not subscribed, liked, shared, commented, let us know what you guys thought, and we will talk to you guys soon for the next episode. Have an absolutely amazing day.